Okay, it is 9:44 a.m. and I had two trades. I had to take an L with IGEX and I had a trade that worked slightly with ALPP. It wasn't too bad. Right here was my first trade with IGEX and I was in because it had like a gap down. So it was like a gap down morning panic bounce play, and it actually ended up working a little bit, but not when I got in. And I was in at 9:31, which was right here at 27, because at the time when I bought, it was looking like it was going to, open really low and then just continue to push towards the upside and do a nice move. And I wanted to be a part of that. It looks like maybe now is actually going to drop towards VWAP, and I want to see if it can continue to bounce from here. But again, I was in it right here because it just had that big massive gap down, and it looked like it was going to actually break the wall at 27 and then get to 28 again and continue the uptrend more. But that was not the case. The only thing I would have liked to have done better was that there was a lot of opportunity for me to have been able to sell maybe half or a large portion of my shares at 26, so that if it doesn't work out, at least I don't have to cut the entire trade for a loss. But it just kept being all finicky with the price action, and that it looked like it was going to do it and it wasn't, and it ultimately didn't. I got out at 9:34, which was right here at 25 when it looked like it was going to try to break this 25 support level, and that was ultimately the case. Gap down, morning panic bounce play potential. I'm in it right here. Looks like it's going to turn around. Too many people keep dumping their shares at the bid. I guess people aren't really happy with this stock, and it just wasn't uptrending. I had to cut it right there at 25 because it looks like it was going to get under it, and it did, and it got as low as 23. It did eventually come back, and it held itself, and it got as high as 30, which would have been pretty nice if it were to have happened right then and there when I got in at 27. But there were too many people, I guess, dumping their shares. Maybe stop limits were triggered because they opened so low. I honestly don't know, but didn't work out. It took I think like a $10 loss. I'm not extremely sure. If I have to guess, it was probably a $10 loss. And I did trade ALPP. This one kind of worked out. As you can see, it's kind of sketchy, but this is a listed stock, so I traded less shares because this is like a $5 risk level. But it was a morning panic bounce play, and this thing used to be an OTC before. I bought 250 shares at 937, right here at 64. It looks like it was going to break this 6401 or 6402 level that was at the ask, and it just did it, but it traded kind of weird. As you can see, it had like a blip above VWAP, and I did sell. I'm pretty happy that I did this at 939. I sold a portion of my trade, 100 shares at 6403 at 939, which was right around here when I started to sell before I had a blip, I guess, here towards the upside. And I don't mind that because it was looking a bit sketchy, and I didn't want to be in a situation like with IGEX where it doesn't look nice and I'm not able to sell a portion of my position for roughly break even, and then it breaks the level, and then I have to cut the trade with a full size. So I'm pretty happy that I traded that portion like that because I thought it was going to work right then and there as well with this one. And when it wasn't, I'm pretty happy that I sold, a piece of my trade, even if it did uptrend later, just to lower my risk. And I did sell the last 150 shares at 6502. That was at 940. Just had like a sketchy run towards the upside, and then people were dumping their shares. And I did get out at 6502, which was right here. And now it's trading a bit strange, but I guess it's going to continue the uptrend, although there is a large seller right here at 66. I'll make an update later, and I'll continue to see what IGEX does over a longer period of time, but I'm less interested in trading it because it did get me once right here. It didn't work out. I'll make an update later, but there's nothing I want to trade right now. Okay, it is 10:15 a.m. and I want to make an update as well as what I think I could have done better with all three of these trades. I did have one more trade here with SYSX, and I think I'll go over SYSX first and then go over what I could have done better on all three of these trades. And I think I'll just call it off right here. It's definitely not my day in terms of trading, which is fine, but I think I did my best. But I also see a few things I could have done better. SYXX was a bit of a, it was like a bit of a late morning panic bounce play. It's not like consistently downtrending or anything like that, but it had a move here, then it came back and it went lower, and then it tried to come back to where it was, and then it failed, and then it downtrended here. And it was nice because the previous close was 645, so that was really close to where this price action was, and it was holding it. I did see it right here, and I did see this move towards the upside, so it at least showed me that it had the potential to uptrend. And when it kind of came back, I had a trend line, and I think it was based off of this price action right here. Yeah, as you can see, this is following this trend line, but it's not following it perfectly. I was in at 10 o'clock, 663, right here, 663. At 10 o'clock, I was in it right here. And I was in it with this trend line as a risk level, thinking that, it's playing off of this level. It's near that previous close, so this thing can actually try to hold as a support level and then uptrend and get to VWAP, which, as you can see, it did pretty nicely, even though this one is kind of sketchy the way it trades and it has a spread. But I was interested in it for that reason. And I think in the future, what I could do better is that if I'm going to use a trend line as a risk level, so if it breaks under it, I'm going to cut the trade, I should probably give it some distance so that if it's not consistent, like it was right here and this little wick right here, then I will not cut it at a disadvantaged point if it's just going to be something just slightly inconsistent, and then it uptrends later. Or maybe I can move the trend line off of these inconsistent levels and then give me a wider level of risk, but maybe something that will help me hold better. I did get out, unfortunately, the next minute at 10:01 because it did break that trend line that I had, and I got out at 657. So right here, and I was in it right here. I basically just traded the bid and the ask while I had that spread. And it really sucked because, as you can see, it got as high as 71, and that pretty much was my goal. Although best case would have been if it went above VWAP. Yeah, it really sucks that I missed out and I took an L. I only lost $3 on this trade, but this is what I could have done better with SYXX. I think it was a good attempt for what it was, but in the future, either I'm going to have a really wide risk level in terms of a trend line. I won't make it so exact and precise, especially if it's not a very consistent stock. And this one, again, trades with a wide spread at times. Or number two, I just won't use it at all, and I can just use a regular support level like the previous day close. That could have been it, and that would have allowed me to hold longer and potentially been much more profitable. And then with ALPP, the thing I could have done with this one was just have the right amount of shares. I try to calculate, what a potential $5 risk level position size would be with a listed stock, and I should have traded 500 shares. I would have been a slightly more profitable trade there. And then with IGEX, again, I would have liked it if I were to have been able to sell maybe half or a portion of my trade at 26. And even though that wouldn't have helped too much, I did calculate it, and best case scenario, if I did all these things that I mentioned, I would be up just $3. I would have had a profit with SYXX if I sold at 678, which is totally realistic. I mean, the thing got to 70, and the sell at 678 would have been right here. I'm not even trying to say, oh, I could have sold right at VWAP, something with a little slack to make it realistic. And then, yeah, with ALPP, I would have made more because I would have had a proper amount of shares, a $5 risk level. And then with IGEX, I still would have lost, but because I would have sold, half at 26 and the other half at 25, I would have been able to sell at 255, and that would have meant that I would have been, just up because these two would cancel out, and then this one would have worked out. Let me make this actually proper. There we go. Yeah, that's totally it. Instead, I'm going to be Slightly red on the day, but that's fine. I think I'm going to catch up with a bunch of work, and I will be back probably at the market close to see what the stocks did over the rest of the period. But yeah, that's all I have for right here. Alright, it is 10:01 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I think I'm going to be down today $11.44. And while that really sucks, I think I learned a lot. There were a few lessons I could have done better, and it was just really unfortunate that this one didn't work out when I got in. ALPP, I wasn't sized correctly. The one setup that was profitable. And then with SYSX, this one worked out, but I just didn't have a proper risk level. So I think a great amount of lessons were learned, and at the end of the day, $11 is, not $1,000. It's not something crazy like that. And I just have to keep going and thinking positive overall. Yes, today sucked, but I learned a lot from it. It makes it less likely for me to screw up or at least make the same mistakes in the future. SYXX did do that move towards VWAP, which was pretty impressive. It did make a move again later, but I wasn't looking at this anymore. I was starting to work on other things. IGEX is very depressing, but it did at least offer the move that I was thinking about. It didn't look that nice, and I'm also giving up on NWBO ever having a reversal day, a proper reversal day. It just seems like this thing is just not going to even try to offer a little bounce. It's very depressing. It kind of reminds me of, I think this was it, the stock. Yeah, like this one just had a sell off. It's never came back. It just gives off the same vibe. ALPP worked out, although it was kind of iffy the way this one traded. And yeah, also unfortunate that this one that worked out was a listed stock, so I traded a $5 risk level instead of a $20 risk level, which would have been more profitable. And that's really about it. RMSL had a sell off here. I did not see this at all. This was pretty cool for what this one was. I wonder if I would have traded it if I saw this thing drop. This thing is going to be a potential morning panic bounce play. Still plenty of opportunity. And yeah, that's all I have for today.